Shelly, Alondria, get behind me. Jeremiah, Chris, get behind me. Nick, Taylor, Ace, I said it, Ace, get behind me. Amaya, for right now, baby, you're in enemy territory. I don't know what you're doing over there, but it seems like you're having a good time. For now, we'll leave the door open for you for whenever you want to come over to this side and come inside. We'll leave the door open for you. But right now, you're making your bed and you're going to lie in it. Everybody learns that lesson. You might learn it next. I don't want that for you, but I see it for you. Hey everybody, what's up? This is 10 at a Time, the short long form show. I am your host, William Pureville, and this is my podcast. And it's called 10 at a Time because the original idea was that I was only going to talk for 10 minutes at a time, and that's what the episode was going to be. But that's not what this is going to be now, because there's too much to say and too much to unpack. And to be honest with you, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here any more than you do. But I've been dragged in once again by the Love Island Villa discourse, the podcast industrial complex. And you know what's unfortunate about all these people getting out of the villa and doing their podcast circuit is that none of these podcasters or journalists, none of them know how to conduct a proper interview, and they're interviewing people who aren't well renowned for being well spoken. The most well-spoken person of anyone in the villa was Sierra. And look where that got her. They can't interview her right now. So we've got all of these people who had to take the SAT at least 3 times. Interviewing on podcasts where no one knows how to ask a follow-up question. Especially Alex Cooper. Here's the thing. I closed the Peacock app and I stepped out into the sun for the first time in what felt like ages. I could feel the light on my face, and it was beautiful. But there is no leaving Peacock. And what we're going to talk about today, you guys have been reaching out to me specifically to ask about Huda. You guys want me to talk more about Huda. And honestly, I mean, there are so many other people we can talk about, but none of them are creating a cultural schism across America the way that Huda is. I mean, Huda, I haven't seen the nation this divided. Well, actually, this is just kidding. Just kidding. We've been divided kind of all year. I heard a story once about a man who found out that his wife was a Huda defender, and I really don't know what I would do if I was in that position. It would be so scary, right? But there is a cultural divide that is orbiting this woman and her behavior. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to talk about it this episode, and we're going to talk about, in particular, her Call Her Daddy interview, which is what you guys wanted me to watch. And I'm going to say outright that it just wasn't good. It just wasn't a good interview. It wasn't a good podcast. I'm not a Call Her Daddy fan in the first place. Dude, the first time I ever listened to Call Her Daddy, it was when it was still like a Barstool property or something like that, and some white girl in the college that I was going to was like, oh my gosh, you like podcasts? You have to listen to this show called Call Her Daddy. Mind you, at the time I was like taking gender studies classes. I was reading Judith Butler. I listened to like 45 minutes of a Call Her Daddy episode. I was like, this is some of the most violent shit I've ever heard in my life. Alex Cooper is still weird, and it was a weird interview, and it was a bad interview, and it didn't make anyone in it look good. Not the host, not the guests, not the production, and not Love Island. And I'm going to talk about this, and I don't want to get too activated. I just get passionate, but I don't like watching things back where I like raise my voice and I'm screaming and blah, blah, blah. Because that's really, I was going to say that's not who I am. That is who I am. I'm very easily excitable, but I don't want to be that person. I want to be kind of like nonchalant, and I want people to lean in when they listen to me. If we're going to choose to lean into the trauma bonding event that all of America went through together, and not cleanse our spirits and not cleanse our souls, okay, cool. It's, Call Her Daddy aside, it is getting weird. The news publications targeting Shelly and Olandria, it's getting weird. All of the attention, it's getting very overexposed. It's getting very strange. People are saying things that they should not be saying. Institutions and publications are publishing things that they should not be publishing. And so now I'm questioning the columnists, and I'm questioning the editors, and I'm questioning the news source. It's all bad. Here's the thing that's interesting about Love Island this season is that when it got as bad as it got, Americans literally started advocating for voter suppression. I'm talking about like people were so upset at the possibility that teenagers, high schoolers, minors were like voting in the Love Island process against the rules, stacking the vote in favor of one of the newest inductees to the Toxic Reality TV Hall of Fame, Huda. I mean, people started demanding literacy exams before people got to vote for Love Island. They wanted a 2 ID verification process before people voted for Love Island. I think that's why the Love Island voting sessions last so long, is that like they need to close the polls before middle schoolers wake up to catch the bus. Anyway, it's all getting weird. And one person that I do feel bad for is Alex Cooper, who like in Sub Publication last year, she was like, oh yeah, she referred to herself as a journalist. And after seeing her conversation with Huda, I almost said interview, but it was barely that. After seeing her conversation with Huda, it's very clear that she's not making it into the journalist heaven, because she's not a journalist. She's a weirdo. The anti-black racism, the misogyny, the misogynoir, like the targeting, the harassment, the bullying, the death threats. And what's insane is that it is all centered around this central figure. So let's get into Huda. Before we even get into the call her daddy thing, I do want to say that like since Huda has left the villa, she's been weird. She did an Access Hollywood interview, and honestly, shame on the Access Hollywood interviewer as well, who, when they were talking about Huda's crash out, she was like, oh, is this the crash out that everyone's talking about? Like, I do that all the time, which is such a crazy thing to admit. But she's referring to Huda calling Jeremiah a pussy ass bitch multiple times, PAB, multiple times in front of all of his cohabitating roommates, whatever, which is already bad. But like, I get it. Like, yeah, women curse sometimes. And here's the thing too, I do want to say, some people were like, to criticize Huda is to be misogynistic. Like Huda, like people who criticize Huda hypercritically, they're being misogynistic, or they're being anti-Arab because she's Palestinian. And I just think that shit is so lame, like when people say that, because if we lay out the things that people are critiquing Huda for not being able to regulate her emotions, for lying, if not lying, then at least misrepresenting the truth, for weaponizing her fragility against people, especially black people, for what else, for coercing her partner in an intimate setting. You know what I'm saying? So the things that we're like criticizing Huda for are not things that you should try to frame as like an intrinsic and immutable part of the Arab community or womanhood. I think that's actually weird as fuck, for you to hear that a woman like on national television tried to coerce her partner into giving her access to his body, and you said, oh, how I love to be a girl. That's actually fucking crazy. You know, like that's weird. And I don't think that it is misogynistic. I don't think that it is anti-Arab. I don't think it's xenophobia. I think that we're critiquing a woman who is demonstrating bad behavior. And for you to be so desperate to defend this woman that you would implicate entire communities as owning those bad behaviors, that is so short-sighted and like really weird of you. Hey, this is Widlin in the edit, and I do just want to clarify, I'm sure there are many critiques of Huda that are implicated in misogyny, anti-Arab sentiment, xenophobia, etc. I'm sure there absolutely are. However, as it pertains to the ones that I specifically listed, which are things that she clearly demonstrated inside the context of the show, I don't think that by naming those things, you are inherently participating in those systems of oppression or in those prejudices. And I mean, those prejudices and those systems exist all around us all the time. So like, I'm not going to say it's zero. It's never zero. But I think to write off those critiques as though they're irrelevant because all of them come from a place of bigotry, as opposed to all of us looking clearly at the behavior that we're seeing in front of us, I think that's insincere and disingenuous. So yeah, but like, you know, patriarchy is everywhere, and white supremacy is everywhere. So obviously it's not there, but I don't think that's what this is about, me personally. This Access Hollywood interview, she's like, yeah, like, don't we all call our partners pussy ass bitches sometimes? I never have, and I've never been called one. But maybe it's not about me. The issue is that everyone keeps minimizing what the crash out was. They think they talk about the crash out as though it's like a little bit of name calling. Have you forgotten the espionage? I'm talking about espionage. I'm talking about the other girls coming back from a date that they were so excited to talk about, and Huda standing up in the middle of that to ruin the moment, going across to spy on the boys in their private conversation, having a freak out where everyone had to console her, and then going upstairs to like corner Iris and harass her in such like a hostile manner that people didn't feel comfortable leaving them alone together. Hello? You do that all the time? You're weird. You know what I'm saying? It's not just like, oh yeah, she called him a couple of names. I mean, yeah, that part, let's agree. Let's set that aside. We'll agree to disagree, or we'll agree that like it happens all the time. You know, every now and then you gotta drop the PAB bomb. Okay, cool. What about the rest? You know? And that's the thing. Huda is like responding to some of the criticisms that she's been hearing from herself online, where she's like, people keep saying I'm a master manipulator. If I was a master manipulator, my therapist would tell me that's not how therapist works. That's not how therapy works. That's not what therapists do. She's like, I'm a mother. Of course I'm patient. This is a quote from her. I'm a mother. I'm patient. And the thing is that if you've met a mother before in your life, you know that's not a good defense. Right? I've met many mothers. I've known many mothers. I had a mother once. They can at times be patient. Yes. Mothers are intense people. It's just like so, and here's the thing, like actually the thing about Huda being a mother and using that as a defense, right? As though all mothers are saintly and have like nothing but positive attributes, and like I'm like, let's get past that. The thing about it is that it's another example of Huda using her circumstance to validate things about herself that are not necessarily true. She has such a grand self-mythology where she's telling you all of these things about her character. I'm the most passionate, caring, patient, sensitive, thoughtful person that you'll ever meet. We don't see any of that manifest in her character though, right? Because she also has very little self-awareness. So it's just like the contrast between the person that she clearly thinks that she is versus the person that her actions represent her to be. Mind you, I don't know Huda. And honestly, I don't want to talk too much about her outside the context of the show, because now we're getting into real life and it's a little weird. But yeah, everyone else who's come out of the villa, who's doing these press junkets, are being nothing but respectful and thoughtful and conscientious about the words they're choosing to speak about her in particular, but about the experience in general. So it's just like another demonstration of Huda's utter lack of consideration for everyone around her, that she's immediately gone on to call her daddy, to like bash people, to, you know, ridicule people, to disrespect them, and to victimize herself throughout the entire thing. And it's a huge show on Alex Cooper's part that like that girl is allergic to a follow-up question. She like, and this is anyway, I can't really speak too much to what Call Her Daddy is normally like with their guests, but I know Amaya was just on the show as well, which is only fair. She's the winner, even though Alex Cooper didn't have the winners on last year. Noted. But I get why Alex Cooper didn't have Serena or Janae on last year, or any of those other people, because she knew Kamala Harris was coming and she has a 1 in 1 out system. Like there's a quota here, and Amaya just filled that quota, so good for them. Anyway, I was gonna watch Amaya's episode, but I'm not gonna lie, you got me one time, Call Her Daddy, and I can't let you get me again, because it's just not really solid work. Let's get into Huda on the show. Huda on Call Her Daddy. Wow. I mean, before we get into what the actual structure of the interview was, I want to say this. Everyone's gotten out of the villa and they immediately knew what sound bites of theirs had gone viral. Like, Nick immediately knew that he had gone viral. Like, Huda had already heard the Mamacita from her family, but it's just very clear that these people are very connected to the internet, and they were very interested in what the internet was saying about them the second they got out, which is only natural. But that's all to say that, like, I know that you're online because you're referencing the stuff that happens online. You know what I'm saying? Huda refers to the things that she's seen Jeremiah say online in podcasts and in interviews. You've seen the landscape, right? That said, if you've spent time online all of you have spent time online. Alandria spent enough time online to hear all of the hateful, like racist, violent things that people are saying, the imagery they're creating around Huda, enough to comment on it on her own interviews, Alandria. Huda, my thing is, Huda, why would you not come out and make it a priority to denounce racism? Like, that sounds so silly. Like, it sounds silly to be like, you have to denounce it. But like, hey, if you go to every single Islanders comment section and find that your name is being used to do violent racial anti-black harassment against almost every female competitor and every other competitor that shared the villa with you, I think that you should come out and say, don't be racist if you follow me. Like, I don't know. I just think it's reasonable. I think Leah did it last year when like there was clearly an anti-black quality to the harassment that Serena and Janae were receiving compared to her. You know, if someone had, and this is what I'm talking about, there's an image circulating around where, and my thing is, if you had seen your own face be used that way, if you saw your name being used in every single person's comment section in hateful, bullying, nasty ways, why would you not speak up around that and instead spend the entire time like discoursing the petty exchanges that happened on the show? You know what I'm saying? That shit is weird as fuck. Hey mama, hey mama, hey mama, look behind you. The daughters of the Confederacy are standing behind you. David Duke is standing behind you. Are you okay with that, Huda? Huda, the daughters of the Confederacy are right behind you. Don't look now. Don't look now. You should say something. Mind you, Sierra got out of the villa and she took a quick 48 hours and then had a report ready on our desks. A cute 500 words in MLA format. The shit that is happening in Huda's name against every other person that's left the villa, but in particular Shelly Olandri. And for her to get on every platform and frame herself as a victim and frame herself as someone who was bullied by the other Islanders, who we watched the show. These people were incredibly patient with you. They saved you from being evicted and dumped from the island multiple times because they believed in you. They believed in the opportunity for you and your potential to find love and find a connection. You know what I'm saying? They are the reason that you got to have the full experience that you had because they saw something. And not only did you take advantage of that inside the context of the villa, which we all saw, but you took advantage of that in the interview space by framing yourself as a victim again. Mind you, after the crash out, she wants to be like, oh yeah, Sierra was the fakest person in the villa. Sierra was the realest person to you ever. Amaya's nice to you. Amaya don't keep it real with you like that. I mean, she kind of does, but Amaya will say some affirming ass shit because she's a sweet girl. She's a very kind girl. That's why I didn't listen to her podcast. I knew that she was going to get on there and say some very neutral, very kind, very respectful shit. And that's not what I'm trying to hear right now. Okay? I need you to be real with me. I need you to give me the real story. You know what I'm saying? But Amaya is so affirmative and kind and sweet. That's why we love her. The only person that sat you down and said, hey, Huda, something's going to have to change, that was Sierra, babe. And she was real for that. Weird as fuck. I'm not going to stand by the rest of all the stuff that Sierra did or that she said in or off the villa. I enjoyed her as a character, whatever. But like, you know, I can see where people have their criticisms, especially, you know, that whole situation, the slur situation, whatever. But Huda, for you to be like she was the fakest to you, that means nothing coming from a snake. Anyway, let's move into the actual structure of the interview. Dog, this shit was 2 hours of like basura. Oh my god, this shit was ass. 2 hours. I had to listen to it on 1.5 speed. I really couldn't make it through. Never would have made it. It was bad. And it was bad in the beginning because we spent like 30 minutes talking about Huda's trauma. Alex Cooper said, tell me about your childhood. And Huda immediately went into describing all of the worst things that ever happened to her. And mind you, all of these things are things that we kind of like foresaw, right? That she had like a very deep, difficult childhood riddled with trauma, like physical violence from her father and also like an implied sexual violence from her father as well. And I'm not going to speak too much on that because knowing how Huda is coming out of the villa, it's very clear that like people have curiosities and things that they'd like her to answer for. And so to begin the entire interview, with a deep dive into her personal trauma as a cheat code to humanize her. I just feels I'm sorry, obviously I'm empathetic to like what she's experienced, but like as an adult, besides helping me grasp context, I don't know how to engage with that when I'm asking you, why did you create a hostile working environment for everyone in the villa? And you're like, because I have trauma. I understand. I mean, it's hard because I don't know how to speak about it without sounding insensitive. And I actually think that's part of the trap of it, is that now everything that we say about Huda sits in direct contrast to like her telling us very bravely about all of these terrible things that happened, but like that's not an opportunity that other people inside the villa have had to humanize themselves, for us to hear their stories in that way, for them to get spotlight and for them to get screen time. And so this like centering of Huda's trauma before we get into asking her questions about why she treats people the way she treats people, it's just like, so everyone has their story, everyone has their humanity, and in all of the time that we've taken to understand Huda, to give Huda more chances, more opportunities, more time in the villa, another connection, we've watched so many people lose their connections, lose their opportunity, lose their spot in the villa, lose their like sense of safety and security, lose the light in their eyes. And so it's like, as a traumatized person, sure, you have my sympathy, but I don't feel good about letting you consume everyone else, like cannibalistically consume everyone else and their experiences for the sake of your growth. Your growth doesn't get to be the end all be all of everyone else's experience in the villa. It's selfish, you know? So I didn't like that they started the interview that way, especially considering the fact that like one of the major criticisms of Huda that we've seen throughout the season is that like she's very quick to weaponize her fragility against people, to weaponize her fragility and her sensitivity, to start this episode where people have like serious grievances and concerns and like, you know, questions that they need to ask, and begin it with 30 minutes of like us making us feel bad for this girl. It just feels like, again, with Huda, we're using trauma and feelings and emotions as like an argument ending, conversation ending manipulation. And I know that that's not maybe the intention. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, call her daddy, that's not the intention. But specifically with who this is and what we've seen her do, like it just doesn't feel safe to me. It doesn't feel good, and it doesn't feel appropriate, because it doesn't feel like that's actually helping the situation, right? If this trauma and this like hurt is at the center of everything we saw her go through in the villa, then actually having her hash that publicly and open, like for the audience again to consume, and to bring it into this part of the discourse where we're not talking about a TV show and we're actually talking about real life, to bring it back into the discourse this explicitly when clearly this woman is still grappling with like everything that's happened to her in the villa and in her life. It's just like really weird. It's really dangerous. It's really murky. It's really blurring the lines, and I don't like that. But anyway, what's very clear about Huda through this entire Call Her Daddy interview is that she feels that everything about her experience in the villa is about the circumstance. It's about the way people treated her. It's about every factor besides herself. And she does not offer other people that same consideration and regard. She literally doesn't. One of the funny things is like, it's ridiculous. She says that she agrees that Jeremiah love bombed her, but also talks about how he was not doing enough. How both of things are possible at the same time, I'm not quite sure. But he wasn't doing enough. Okay, cool. And then Alex Cooper asks her one question and says, do you hold yourself to the same standards that you hold your partners to? And she goes, no, I'm not doing wifey stuff for a man who doesn't deserve it. And that type of cognitive dissonance, I fear that it's like more common than I would like to admit. But seeing it happen that quickly with that quick of a turnover and her not perceive it for herself, again, grand self mythology, right? I am deserving of these things inherently and innately because of who I am. Terrible self-awareness. I am not willing to reciprocate that because other people are not deserving and they are not innately worthy. interesting. It's very clear that Huda believes that all of the things that are unlikable about her are due to some extenuating circumstance, but she doesn't offer the benefit of the doubt that anyone else is experiencing an extenuating circumstance just by being on Love Island in and of itself. And everyone else is like, to her, they're in their homeostasis, they're set up to succeed, they're set up to win. Another thing, her talking about like her frustration with Jeremiah being the fact that she thought he was winning, which means that she's competing with him. And it's so sad that like you're not only competing with Jeremiah, Huda, but you're also competing with Shelly. That's what I forgot to mention. Oh my gosh, in this interview, it really came out, huh? This girl is in direct competition. She was competing for her life. Why? Because Shelly was the Jeremiah of the girls and Huda was the Ace. Little insecure people. And I wouldn't even do that to Ace because Ace wasn't even crazy like that to me, for real. I'm not going to lie. But Shelly had all the boys wrapped around her finger. She could have any man in there that she wanted because she was cherubic and beautiful and a pleasant and pleasant company and funny and kind and regulated, you know. And here goes Huda telling a story about how she was so frustrated that she would walk down and Chris wouldn't give her attention, but he was having a full conversation with Shelly. Oh, you really clocked that, huh? That really bothered you, didn't it, Huda? Get the fuck out of me. Huda has an excuse for literally every single thing that she does. And what's crazy is that Alex Cooper barely pushes back. I mean, they have a conversation about why Huda would be harassing the bombshells as they came in. Alex Cooper is like, you get that Amaya coming in as a bombshell and kissing Jeremiah, that was just her job, right? She was just doing her job. Huda's like, yeah, I get that now. But like, you know, at the time, it was new. It was new. It's not the real world. I needed time to adjust. I needed time to get used to it. And the obvious follow-up question is, okay, then why did you do it to Iris? Why did you befriend Amaya, bring her into the circle once you decided that she wasn't a threat to you and you talked all that shit about her, and then literally replicate the same cycle with Iris? Even worse, because you cornered her, harassed her, interrogated her, so on and so forth. And then even worse, you humiliated her on the international scale when you weren't chosen by Jeremiah in the Doors challenge. You know what I'm saying? That's the next question. Okay, cool, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You needed time and practice to get used to the circumstance. It was weird, and you learned that with Amaya. So why did you replicate it with Iris? Why? And what's with the double standard between you not talking to other people's men and so on and so forth there? And what's with the double standard of you talking about, you know, you not wanting other women to talk to Jeremiah? And a lot of people have come forward to say that like they didn't feel comfortable speaking with Jeremiah. Actually, very funny. I saw Hannah on another terrible podcast hosted by people who shouldn't be interviewing people on their podcast. And she was like, yeah, I didn't actually know a lot about Jeremiah until we left together. But I think he's actually a really cool guy. And I didn't know that because all I ever heard was the stuff that Huda said. Jesus Christ, brother. There goes that isolation. There goes that villain making, that enemy making. There goes that narrative. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's get it. We can't get into that right now. If you were so pressed about people pulling Jeremiah, then how come you couldn't honor the same grace and respect that you wanted people to have for you by offering that to Hannah when you pulled Pepe for a chat? You couldn't even look her in the face as a woman. You whispering in that man's ear to come follow you to Soul Ties. He doesn't want you. Shit was crazy. Do we get any of these questions asked? No. And I get that it's like a softball interview and people are supposed to feel comfortable, and that's how Alex Cooper is able to secure these guests. But in a situation like this, baby, I need you to push back a little. Come on, man. And the reason that she's really, really weird, the reason why Alex Cooper is really, like weird as fuck, she's laughing at the weirdest shit, dog. Like actually. And this is the root of it too. What we're here to litigate is the fact that she demonstrated weeks of abusive and hostile behaviors. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to dance around it. That's what it was. Verbal abuse, isolation, manipulation, coercion. Like, these things they're not anything to take super lightly. And if Huda wasn't specifically not just a woman, but exactly the kind of woman that she is, and not even that per se, but specifically not a black woman, if she had a different circumstance in terms of identity that she was coming into the villa with, we would not be putting up with this whatsoever. So I'm sorry if we're here to talk about like, hey, why did you demonstrate a series of abusive behaviors with multiple people in the villa? You know, you want to talk about like criticizing Huda is misogynistic. Huda took every opportunity she could to belittle another woman inside the villa. Like she is one of the horsemen of misogyny in the Love Island universe. To watch her create the hostile environment that she created, I'm sorry, but I would never listen to someone who's done something abusive tell me about how the worst thing that ever happened to them is the reason they did that behavior. Anyway, it doesn't matter objectively what Huda did in the last episode of Love Island this season was an act of sexual coercion. When she was like, I'm going to count to 3 and you better turn around and cuddle me. And all the adults in the room know very well that that was not a conversation about cuddling. And Chris had every right to pretend he was sleeping even if he wasn't sleeping. That's actually not the issue. But anyway, it's Love Island and they notoriously don't get much sleep at night. These are notoriously sleep-deprived people. Olandria is in the corner. Olandria's in the corner of the makeup room almost every episode trying to catch an extra nap. We know these people are exhausted. You know what I'm saying? So for you to be like, if you don't cuddle me, I'm going to be upset tomorrow. Is that the price you really want to pay? Alex Cooper is like giggling along with all of this as though it's funny. What's funny? The reason you think it's funny is because you think that Chris is some 6'8" basketball playing black man. Well, I can't say all that, but I just think it's crazy, like for Alex Cooper to have the audience that she has and be connected to as many women as her voice is connected to, and to like bring people on like Kamala Harris to campaign for the presidential election. You know, to be laughing at something that's a violation of just like basic consent culture. You know what I'm saying? When someone says no, they mean no, and you have to honor their no. I remember last season there was this Casa Amor boy that came in and he wanted to talk to Kaylor, and he was upstairs in soul ties with Kaylor, and he was like, "Should we kiss?" And she was like, "No, I don't think so." And he was like, "Come on, you sure?" And even that, I was like, "Get this nigga out of here." She said, "No, buddy. Get him out of here." So for like production to watch that happen, and mind you, you know what makes it worse? It's not just the fact that Huda is laughing about it, and Alex Cooper thinks it's funny too. She's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah." Huda's like, "Yeah, I mean, if you want me to talk to you like a child, I'll talk to you like a child." He's not a child, he's an adult, and even if you were talking to a child like that, you shouldn't speak to children that way. That's actually another crazy implication coming from you who is a mother. Like, you should not even speak to your own child that way. That's weird as fuck. I hope that you don't think it. Well, and then we get into, now we're implicating all of the stories of the trauma that she's experienced early in her life, and that's probably why she feels it's appropriate to engage with people. But you know that you have a rocky, tumultuous physical relationship with Chris, and that he's drawn clear boundaries with you. But instead, we're laughing at the sexual coercion. We're laughing at the sexual harassment. We're laughing at the violation of people's boundaries. And we spend all this time talking about the pillowcase to the nose, which I'm not saying it's okay that Chris threw that pillow at her. Okay, cool. But but fucking coercion, dog? That's a hee-hee ha-ha to you? And then immediately after we leave the story about the coercive element of what happened on that last night in the villa, Alex wants to bring up like, oh, well, one of Chris's exes tweeted that he's known to be cold and passive aggressive. Are you dead ass? Character assassination? After you just giggled at motherfucking coercion in the night vision camera? You're crazy. You're really crazy as fuck. You're actually sick. But Woodland here the next day because I forgot to make a couple of points last night. And I recorded this podcast multiple times because I did it the first time. And I was like, I don't know if that's good enough. And I don't know if this version is the best version of it either. But I'm just like kind of stream of consciousness-ing. I think another part of the Caller Daddy interview that made it clear that Alex Cooper was not equipped to really host this conversation was her enabling the crash out, and again, people speaking so ambiguously about what the crash out actually was, and all of the very many layered extended parts of it, and just like kind of truncating it down to like, you called a man some mean names, and that's not the entirety of what it was, and that's not the entirety of what made people uncomfortable. But anyway, Alex Cooper through all of them talking, you're like, oh, I'm not condoning it. Obviously what I did was wrong, but it was a circumstance, but they made me feel this way, and it's the same thing that we saw with Huda when she was talking to Jeremiah, saying like, you're the reason I act this way. You're the reason that you don't understand what I've been through. It's your fault that I'm having, and it's like, you need to take responsibility for your own feelings. But not only that, Alex Cooper is like, yeah, I mean, everyone's freaking out, but like, we've seen men do terrible things on reality TV. Men like, throw chairs and threaten people and this, and men do that and like whatever. And it's not whatever, because that's not relevant to the conversation. I'm not saying that it's not true. It's absolutely true that men get to get away with murder on reality television, or men get to get away with murder in real life. That's patriarchy. That's misogyny. That is all of those systems that do exist. Absolutely. But it just reminds me of like, when you see black men complain that white men get away with the crimes they can't get away with, and it's like, well, the point is that like, also don't do crime. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're right. There are men in Hollywood that do all types of dirt and get away with it and still have their careers and so on. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be held accountable for shooting Megan Thee Stallion in the foot, Tory Lanez. You being held accountable for shooting a defenseless woman in the foot isn't a miscarriage of justice. The miscarriage of justice is that those people got away with it. And if I'm trying to correct the system, and if I'm trying to correct the wrong that's happening, it's not to give you the freedom to do harm to other people the way that privileged people get to do harm to others. It's that privileged people shouldn't be allowed to do harm to others. So you trying to use that as an scapegoat. And it's so shallow. It's just so shallow and reductive to see black men advocate for their right to do harm to others through the lens of racial politics. And the same thing. Okay, back to the show. Also, while I'm here, I do just want to say this is the last time. I'm not talking about Love Island again until the reunion. Don't ask me nothing, okay? Because I'm tired. I might talk about Shelly and Alandria with Keke Palmer, but after that, don't ask me about nothing. Imagine this season if what Huda did wasn't on 24/7 camera. Like, if we didn't see all of this stuff, I really would be like, damn, Chris, he's being so cold to her. He's being so cruel to her. Why is he treating her like this? If they didn't include that clip even. But this is how Huda is behaving on camera. If the cameras didn't capture this stuff and we were watching this, like, this everyone thinks she's so desirable and so beautiful and so this and so that, and she's so gentle, she's so fragile, she's so sensitive, but you never get to hear her talk shit to Jeremiah. You never get to hear her slander and call him out his name. You never get to hear the way that she isolates him from other people and tells him not to communicate about their issues and not to vent to other people as she's venting to other people. You never see her do that weird shit with Chris. You never see her condescend to Chris. You never see her cut Chris off in conversation. She's itching to cut him off in a conversation. She can't wait. You can't see her twist Shelly's words after she says, I want to talk to you, but at a later time. You can't see her lie to person after person after person. You can't see her corner other people to make an enemy out of the new bombshell. You can't see that shit. Imagine if this stuff was not captured on camera. You understand? But that's how she lives her life with other people in the real world. This is the game that she's running with people in the real world, and there are no cameras to capture it. And that's how people in her normal life live with her. I can't even imagine. It's like you're watching it on camera. She's a compulsive liar. And even with that captured all on camera, still look at what she gets away with and the harassment that everyone else has to suffer from her and from her followers. Even seeing the ways that she's manipulating and mischaracterizing and lying. So imagine if we didn't have the other side of the story whatsoever. And even now, we don't even really get the full side of the story because Chris is on Vile Files talking about how she violated his boundaries, and fine. But other than that, he's speaking about her with the utmost respect. He's speaking about her so patiently. And the same with Jeremiah. She's like, I don't have much to say about Jeremiah. I saw that he was laughing when people were making fun of me on some show. Jeremiah has been out of the villa doing press for a while now. He's been nothing but respectful. I've seen many interviews. He's actively trying not to talk about you. He's going out of his way not to talk about you. And that's more grace than I would ever give you, baby. I would drag it. I would drag the fuck out of it. I'd print merch. I would already have a Penguin Random House book deal off this, a memoir. Audiobook narrated by Viola Davis. Everyone just looks so fucking stupid and everyone looks like a fucking weirdo. I don't know Huda on a personal level. From what I've seen of her, it seems like she's someone who's very, very connected to herself through the image of her own victimhood and like that's how she processes all of the information. But it also sucks because like she just has such a grandiose self-image that she, it's like both of those things at the same time, this massive ego and also needing that ego to be in a constant state of victimhood. It's so insufferable. It's draining. It's exhausting. And I feel bad for the people who had to tolerate it. But mostly like these people on the outside who support her, I'm like, either you're a terrible judge of character and you like have invited similar energies into your own life. I feel for you. I feel for you that you don't have the judgment and the discernment to tell that like this is not a great person to keep around you. I'm terrified to know who's in your corner. But also like those people are losers. It takes a real loser to die on this hill. But anyway, thanks so much. This has been 10 at a time, the short long form show, and I'm your host, Will Imperial. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. And hopefully now that I've given you this treat of talking about Love Island on my podcast show, you'll join me again for the next one, where I'll talk about something else, and I'll be more fun, and I'll be more crazy, and more kooky, and okay. Yeah. Love you so much. Bye.